I'm so happy to have Terrence Hayes back here again. Thanks for coming back, man.
No problem, brother. Thanks
I
for
just,
having me.
yeah, I just wanted to start off saying congrats on the Oregonian endorsement. I'm gonna hit the hype button here.
Yo!
But that is just so huge, and obviously, by the time this comes out, it'll be a little after it came out. But I
Right.
just saw it, what, yesterday it came out?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, that's super exciting. Shout out to the Oregonian. It's always good when people see your value, when they understand what type of leadership we're going to need in this city,
yeah,
and that I bring uniquely public safety and community to the table in a way that I believe no other candidate does. And
yeah,
clearly, Oregonian might agree with me a little bit
yeah.
there.
I've been saying, I told this to Noah, he was here a week or two ago. I've been calling you guys part of my District 1 dream team.
Right.
So it's you, Noah, and Loretta Smith. That's my
hmm
dream team
Right.
out there. But I also, yeah, I don't know. I wanted to give you a second to like talk about. I know you were in that Politico article too.
Uh-huh.
Like, what was that? I didn't read it, but like, what were they? They were highlighting you in there for some.
Yeah, again, national, right?
Yeah.
Like that, it is amazing. Well, she reached out to me. This might have been 7, 8 months ago.
Okay.
And she reached out and she's like, look, we're doing a story on politics in Portland. We want to talk to you. And what's so interesting about that is like, I just had got a little like people was talking a little bit about my journey and my
Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
but we hadn't like, I hadn't become like a legit candidate
It was
yet.
kind of right before that. Yeah.
Right. Like, and she was like, let's talk about it. You're a black man, you're formerly incarcerated. Let's talk about the riots. Let's talk about what peaceful protest is. Let's talk about is keeping Portland weird actually the best
Mm,
version of our city. And so we just sat down and talked for about an hour or two, and we just highlighted the need of Portland to be like the swing of the pendulum towards
right.
moderate
Right.
instead of this extreme progressive. And she was just talking about like, the narrative that as a black formerly incarcerated man who's lost a cousin to police violence, like I'm supposed to be this anti-police,
Right. Right. You don't
super
fit that
progressive. Right.
box or
I
whatever.
don't
Yeah.
fit that box. And that's why I think she found me interesting. So we just talked about like, how do we get our city back on track? What does it mean for Portland to swing towards being a moderate city? And how did we even become an extremely progressive city? We've always been a liberal city. We've always been a city that thought outside of the box and holistically what is a democratic city. But like, how did we get there? And then how do we get back? So I thought it was an amazing article.
I'll put a link to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
In there.
Renee was in it, Carmen Rubio was in it, like, and even to be named with those folks who've
Yeah.
impacted the city at that level is like cool for me. It makes me feel like the city see me. That's why I love this city.
Yeah. And I was gonna say too, I'm not as part of this dream team thing. I'm not BSing you when I say this. I feel like you've kind of become the face of like District One's, well, like what they
Yeah,
want out in District
yeah,
One.
yeah. Because I was willing to say the hard stuff,
Yeah.
right? I think that the difference between me, especially early in this race, and a lot of other people is that I came in immediately listening to my district. Right. I didn't come in with my own stuff and put
Mm,
it on the table.
mm,
I was listening to my district. And when I was coming in talking about the need for more officers, that's because that's what my district was saying.
yeah.
So a lot of people were trying to dance around the tough stuff because they didn't want the political backlash. I think a lot of moderates have been scared of progressives for so long. I came in was like, what are you gonna say? Like, I'm formerly incarcerated. I'm a former gang member. I'm the black narrative you built your entities and your non-for-profits on. You gonna
Yeah.
come for
Yeah.
me? Like, I work hard. I take care of my wife. I'm not around here cheating on my wife and mistreating my wife. Like, I'm a decent human
Mm,
being.
mm.
And so I just came out saying it. I came out saying the tough thing. And I think it opened up the door for other folks that shared my views to not feel by themselves. I got that PPA endorsement when nobody wanted to talk about a PPA endorsement,
Right.
right?
You're totally right about that. I
Right. And
mean,
I went.
yeah,
And then
that
I
was
came out
bold.
screaming,
Yeah.
wasn't it? And then I came out screaming about it before other people had got that endorsement. I was like the first one
Yeah.
that came out going, I got the PPA endorsement. Everybody else was like, we're going to put that badge on the website and hope it works out. Am I lying though, Andy?
You're
I
totally right about
came
that,
out
dude.
pushing. And so I think District 1 folks appreciated that about me.
Yeah.
I was honest. I wasn't lying. I wasn't deceiving. I wasn't playing games with words
That was
during
kind of an
tough games.
opinion that they in your district. It was like people were scared to share that
Mhm.
kind of.
Yeah,
livability stuff. Yeah.
yeah, because you got maybe 6 years of progressive bullying
Yeah.
in our city, and I was the first one to call that out. I was the first person to say middle-aged white women was stealing black people narrative
Yeah.
and actually harming the black community. Andy,
You're
who was
still,
saying
I would
that?
say you're still one of the only candidates. Maybe the only one saying that,
But
honestly.
guess what? Everybody's coming to me and saying they saying we agree.
Yeah.
No, Terrence, you're right.
That's why I think you see this, you're like a magnet for a lot of people that
Yeah.
feel that way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of even moderates around our city holistically is valuing and appreciating me calling it out. Not because we don't appreciate the boldness of the middle-aged white woman. We think her heart was in the right place.
Hmm.
She just stretched beyond listening to the people that was actually impacted. And that's the only reason I called that out, because I wanted those communities to have their voice back. It wasn't an indictment on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was simply, can you give those voices back so that they can do the work?
And I heard a lot about that. By the time this is out, go check out Noah's episode because he
Yeah.
talks a lot about how like District 1, they just get all this stuff that they didn't ask for out
Yeah.
there. I'm talking mostly, I guess, from Peabot, but like
Right.
there's just a lot of stuff, it sounds like, that people weren't heard out there for years and years. And
Yeah. Well, Steph Rout talks about it all the time, is that you had, all these years where nobody that sat on city council actually lived in District 1.
right, right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So we didn't we were the step cousin. We wasn't even the stepchild. We was the step
Right.
cousin,
Yeah.
right? And now we're not. And what's interesting is now, that's why I love Noah, and I chose to slate with Noah, because that our district, he's also resonating with the district is saying.
Yeah.
He's not bringing his own stuff to the table. And before I wanted to over-connect myself to a candidate, I wanted to make sure that they were going to speak for our district. And he boldly, especially from transportation,
Yeah.
because that's Noah's strength, he boldly called out division.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want the walkability and bike lane people to get you, comment on
Yes,
division,
do it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Comment, but he
He's
did that.
probably, yeah, he's got him probably
Yeah,
coming at him.
yeah,
Yeah.
they come. I did an episode on Bike Portland
I
too.
see. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't like, I've talked about it before. I don't, have any bad feelings toward, you talked to Jonathan Mouse. I'm
Jonathan,
guessing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, loved the interview. It was
Yeah.
an amazing interview. If you ain't watched it, go watch it. I mean, I'm still me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't change up who
Totally.
I was,
Yeah.
right? And I think that it was a good interview because we were able to have honest dialogue, and I
Yeah.
don't think Jonathan felt any pressure to corner me in. He wanted
Right.
that.
Right.
We really exchanged. He called some things out he didn't like, but we really exchanged good conversation.
Kind of about the stuff we were just talking about like District 1, what they want with
Yeah.
bikes and stuff like that. And
Yeah, District. I mean, let's just call it what it is. District 1 is not your bike part of
it's
the
not.
city, right?
Yeah.
It's not. This whole
Yeah.
narrative is like we need to make Portland bikeable. Like, yeah, but we need to start in the places that are more prone to bike.
Yeah.
And we should have prioritized sidewalks. We should have prioritized crosswalks. We should have
Yeah.
prioritized.
There's like some basic stuff that
should have
got to take
happened
care of. Yeah.
way before
Yeah.
bike lanes. And I was going down 148th the other day, coming from Sandy heading southbound. And that whole thing is like 2 lanes short because of like medians and 5 feet of bike lane.
All this stuff. Yeah.
They literally reconfigured that whole main street in Southeast Portland to deal with the 5 bikers that I've never seen on the road, for the record. And that is the type of stuff I think, Andy, is problematic, because it's not that we don't think that there should have been places and been considerate of bikers. It's that we've singled out one of our biggest, most dangerous roads
Hmm.
and made it safe for bikers while ignoring the needs of pedestrians, ignoring the needs of the children, ignoring the needs of the immigrant family that has to walk or even drive
Hmm.
to a grocery store that's really far away from them, because again, we failed East Portland because we normalized stealing out of stores and grocery stores closed down.
Yeah.
So it is the same folks that the super progressives who said leave people alone that steal. It's because they hungry. And I go, nah, you most of those folks are stealing because they need to pay for drugs. We have a welfare system that will give you food stamps if you need
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
So this whole narrative that somehow every thief is hungry, takes away from the fact that drug dealers love to take material things in exchange for
Yeah,
drugs.
it's funny because people always like our age or even younger people always talk about like I don't want to go into Fred Meyer and have like a gate or I just went into Safeway yesterday and they have like gates in there.
Oh,
But that's what
Safeway's
I'm telling.
tough.
I try to draw that connection with them of like, well, part of that is we need more police. Like,
Yeah. Well,
they don't make the connection of like,
because you have to look at your bad policy in politics if you do. Because there was also the same folks going, don't arrest people for stealing. Okay.
yeah,
Well, let's make stealing really, really complicated, which is going to make it difficult for folks who don't steal to shop. Like I went to Safeway, the one right on 122nd and Powell.
hmm
I was so irritated because I literally, when I came in and I didn't, whatever I thought I was coming for, I didn't find, I couldn't figure out how to leave. It is so on, have you been to that
no,
one?
I don't
Bro,
know.
it is so on
On your
lockdown.
in your car, you mean, or
No,
just
in
actually in the store?
walking. So
Okay,
I came in the store on the south end of the store, and then when you come in, you can't come out that way.
okay.
You have to go through a check stand to
It's like
get out.
all in like one single file
Got to
thing
come
or
through a
something.
check stand.
Wow.
Every check stand that ain't open got a gate there. So you're gonna either catch Terrence Hayes jumping over a gate to get at it.
Even if you don't buy anything, you still got to get it.
You
Yeah.
still got to go through.
Wow.
And so it frustrated me because that's where our city has gone. We've
Yeah.
and then you think about the overhead cost, right?
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, that is generally given back to the consumer. So we're probably paying more for in the poorest part of our city, we're paying more for food because of those same
Right.
policies,
And
right?
ironically too, me and Kristen have been talking a lot about this. Then they end up paying private security, and sometimes
Yeah.
that goes really bad because they're not trained very
Because they're
well.
not trained
Yeah.
properly,
Yeah.
right? And then you end up police involved anyway, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
no, we've East Portland has suffered under bad progressive policy, and it has made it harder for us to live in East Portland. It has made it more expensive for us to live in East Portland, and usually people who was down at City Hall screaming don't live in East Portland.
Yeah. And like you pointed out, yeah, I mean, think about that sometimes, but I haven't thought about it in a while. Like, yeah, I don't think any recent commissioners ever lived out there, and
No,
so
no, so they can't speak to it. So
yeah.
when their constituents come and press them about stuff, they're pressing them based on what's important to them in whatever community they live in, which
Mhm.
is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But so that means East Portland didn't have a voice. And then some of these folks that's especially in my districts that's talking about how they're activists this and activists that. I'm like, man, y'all should have been actively standing up for East Portland a long time ago. Now you want me to believe that you're gonna do it now. No, I actually think you're going to bring the same politics to the table that hurt East Portland
Yeah.
that was brought a few years ago.
Yeah. It seemed like a totally random question. I was gonna ask this at the top, but do you have a favorite Halloween movie? Because
Halloween.
this will probably come out around Halloween.
A true favorite Halloween movie. You know, I'm a scary cat.
Me too. Well, I'm not really. I was saying that a couple days ago. There was like this like ghost show on HBO
Uh-huh.
or something, and I was telling people at work. I'm like, I couldn't do it because I didn't want to. I didn't want to not sleep and.
No, I'm with you. I am a watch a scary movies. First of all, I'm a scary cat watching a scary movie. I'm still
Okay.
a scary cat, and then I'm definitely gonna dream about the scary
Yeah.
parts, and I'm gonna be the one, black man running in the forest. You know, we go down first. You know what I'm saying? It's
You're
always the
right.
brother that go down first,
Yeah.
and I'm running through the forest, and then in my dream I'm thinking, damn, the black man always die first in
Yeah.
these movies.
You're
And
way
so
more at risk.
right,
Yeah.
way more at risk in my dreams of dying. So no, I do not watch scary movies
Okay.
at all. I don't mess with them. But even
What?
though I know they ain't real, I still
Yeah.
don't do it.
Are you doing? You're doing. Your kids do trick or treat and all that stuff. You do that?
No, so we don't really do holidays
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
We kind of stay away from a lot of stuff. But what we do for our kids is not to kind of leave them on the edge like that. We usually do like me and my wife will travel, or we'll do
Okay.
something for them to
Something
right,
fun.
something fun,
Yeah.
or my mom comes steal them and do what she wants. So there's a granny involved that
Okay.
doesn't care about what we do and
There
don't
you
want to
go.
do.
There you
Right.
go. Okay. Let me see here. I've been asking a lot of people about this. I don't think I've ever asked you this, but I've been asking people about the joint office
Hmm.
agreement. If you would condition that, or if you would just prefer to see it. I said this yesterday on Kristen's thing, which would probably be out, but I I've been saying for a long time, I almost want the joint office to just go away
Mhm.
entirely. But how do you use it? Would you condition that? Like I know that's basically what they're doing now is conditioning with these agreements
Yeah.
with the county and the city. Like how do you see that?
I think I wanna see it. I wanna see us try.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we kind of allowed um, the joint office for the county to kind of just run off with it and do what they wanted to do. And
Totally.
finally, we see us getting a little bit more involved, and we're actually seeing the results. So, but I do understand the frustration of folks that's just been watching 300 million or
Right.
150 million just circulate and go down the drain. But I think that this city has so much on it that if we do pull out, which if the joint office don't act right, I'm all for pulling out. Like I am not afraid of that. If it ain't working, we leave, right?
Right. Right.
But I think we're running into a brand new city governance. We have a lot on our table, and I think that has to be like down the list of possibilities. With 12 new council folks, I think if we jump right to that, then we don't have the infrastructure, in my opinion, right
Right. Right.
now
Yeah.
to immediately get out and do the work that the county's doing. So, as I've said on many podcasts and many shows, I believe that we have to hold the joint office accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we have to hold any bureau accountable for whatever work. Anywhere we put our money,
Mm-hmm.
we should be holding it accountable. Non for profits, whatever it is, we should be looking at the use of our fundings and hold them accountable. But Andy, I wouldn't jump into pulling out of the
Yeah.
joint office on day
That makes
one.
sense. Yeah. With
We
a whole
we
new crew, you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we don't want to do that because we got staffing issues, right? We got a whole set
Yeah.
of issues. But I do think with the wealth of experience and knowledge that should sit in this new council, there's going to be some amazing people that can actually help move the joint office in the right direction. I think we have to create some committees, some accountability committees, some committees that work with these different bureaus to get us going in the right direction. We just don't, Andy. We don't need to jump to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I assure you, brother. Like we need to settle down, figure out how to be friends and get along despite not agreeing on everything. Look at every bureau and figure out what policy we're going to create to make sure that that bureau is functioning. Hopefully, we have a mayor that wants to listen to city council
Yeah.
and that doesn't become a fight. Hopefully we have a city manager that wants to honor the desires of city council and that doesn't become a fight. So Portland has to become lead. It has to be leaders that care. Immediately, we have to find a way to care about what each other think, and then we can set an example to the rest of our city that can help us get balanced again.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense because I've heard from so many people that the first 2 years of this new council is just going to be like a lot of kind of transition
Yeah,
stuff, getting everything going.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and also, um, when I say like I want it to go away, that's just how I felt for the past few years. I
Right.
know now it's a little different, but I also think it depends on who gets into the county. Like I want
Yeah.
Vadim in there. I want Sam Adams in there. I know
Right.
that's not a super popular opinion, but I think if we get a couple county votes to change that, how they deal with the joint office too.
I agree. I mean, the right leadership in county will tell us a direction. But I do. I mean, I'm seeing some good results, and I hear community still frustrated, but they are admitting. Like what I hear from community now is like they're coming and dealing with the tents and with the RVs, but they're coming right back.
Mm,
So one of the things I'm saying when I'm talking about holding a joint office accountable is like when I sit in these community problem solvers meetings, I don't really see answers to that.
yeah,
I don't see answers to, well, when they come right back, what do we do? They're like, well, we got to make the rounds again. And I'm like, yeah, I get it.
yeah.
But it's happening. So how do we move on?
You just reminded me of something I was trying to remember. I think you posted on your Instagram, but I know you went to Keith's homelessness forum thing, and
Hmm.
you said you learned something about how the joint office deals with something. Maybe that's what you were just talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I think his candidate forum was, excuse me for my cough
It's
today.
all good.
I think Keith candidate forum was amazing. But I mean, you learn how I think when you really got to have open dialogue that put your little politics on the side, you learn that there's a real process to getting there. And I think Keith got a good plan. I just think he's
Oh,
a little more optimistic.
here. I just find out my handwriting's so terrible. I don't know if you guys can't see this, but But you posted something about who they shelter first. You learned
Right.
something about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we know that people with families are not prioritized.
Okay.
We should be focused on people that want the services
Right.
instead of
Right.
fighting people that don't really want the service to put them in.
Right.
And we got this thing in our city where we're going after like the what we call the problematic folks that want to be left alone. Just leave me the hell alone. I don't want your shelters,
And they keep saying they don't want this, and they keep going after
and
them.
they keep going
Basically.
after them.
Okay.
And by the way, as we do that, people who will take services are left by the wayside.
Right.
Families are the less served in our community. Families that's suffering from homelessness. Those folks want to be in homes, right? And they are not a priority. But this is the difference when you put in politics over people, right? When your politics is over people, you're only focused with who you see politically. You
Hmm.
actually don't see the holistic need of your community. And so for me as a family man, I couldn't imagine a world where we're actually prioritizing an adult single man over the needs of a family with children.
Hmm.
But we do that in this city. We have literally only one or two places, I think maybe, that specifically houses home path or path home might be the only place
Hmm.
that specifically houses families. We know this city is expensive. We know we've lost jobs and industry in this city.
Hmm.
So explain to me how families are not prioritized.
Yeah.
And even in some folks' plan, I don't see them being prioritized, and that's problematic for me.
Yeah. You kind of just answered this a little bit, but I've also been asking people along with like that joint office agreement stuff. How do you see? Because you mentioned the mayor and the what's it called, the auditor or
The
the city manager. I mean,
city
sorry.
manager, yeah.
How do you see the new one working with? Like, what's your ideal new mayor working with the joint office in the county and stuff?
Yeah, I think what I do love about this new setup is that your mayor becomes like a CEO, right? It becomes that individual's responsibility
Hmm.
to manage the will of the board.
Hmm.
And I think the city council works as the board, right? And I think the CEO's job is to make sure that the books is balanced, right? Customers are serviced correctly, and that we're creating methods to run this city
Hmm.
efficiently
Hmm.
in a way that CEOs do, always thinking about the next 10 years, always planning and then working with the manager to execute that. So I still see our council as the folks that are supposed to create the narrative and help us become policy wise, move us in the right direction. And I see the mayor as an individual that kind of is his job or her job to make sure that that's executed. And then the city manager is that chief operation officer who now goes to the managers and all that and say, this is what we're going to do. That's my idealistic view. I think it just depends. Like, so one of my biggest worries, and I said this, like, what happens if you have a mayor and a council that don't agree?
Yeah.
How do you navigate that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And my biggest concern now is that we're going to have a whole new council,
Hmm.
but we have 3 out of the 4 council members running for mayor. So one of my biggest problems is we seem to have a well-staffed mayor's office, but city council is not going to be
Right.
well-staffed.
Is it still one? You get one
Still one.
staffer. Yeah.
Still one.
Yeah.
So I challenge all of the city council. Nobody, and I'm a big Rene Gonzalez fan,
Hmm.
but he doesn't get a pass from that. They are erring, in my opinion, for not focus on making sure that city council is properly staffed, because policy and constituent services will be my responsibility. One staffer does not allow me to do that
Yeah.
properly. And what usually happens is that community gets ignored. And I'm listening to folks in East Portland. The worst thing I could do is not be available and hone in
Yeah.
for East Portland. That's the whole point of me not managing bureaus,
Right.
is so that I can be present for people.
Yeah, and I was trying to remember each district's what it's like 150,000
Yep.
people or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
150, 160. It's a lot of
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
And I can't answer every email, right?
Right.
With no help. And I think that the city deserves, especially East Portland, deserve accessible representation.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there's a lot of conversation about what am I saying? The field offices thing, and I definitely feel like if any district deserves an office,
Just
it's
one
District 1,
facts.
because people don't want to. I'm on District 3, and I don't even want to have to go to like City Hall for any kind of issue that I have,
Right.
like. But
Imagine being on one 160th and Powell. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like it's not, and that's what I find interesting about the intent of the charter and the intent versus how we've seen our commissioners right now draw out that. I don't think it's aligned at all.
yeah.
I think at the least, if you want somebody to be at City Hall, 2 and 3 can go, right? Like step 4 is
Four is
not even a
in it. Yeah,
question.
yeah.
I think 2 and 3 has better balance, but it's not fair to East Portland
It's
community.
literally the furthest away. Yeah,
And this is the problem, right? This is why East Portland is so tired and frustrated. And so I've talked to every candidate in East Portland. We all agree that that's not even optional. We have to have an office that
yeah.
we're working and functioning out of. We have a lot of empty spaces in East Portland. I would love to see us find a space that's pretty ready to go,
Hmm.
even if we got to do some, a little bit of remodeling. I don't think 1 or 2 extra security guards or staff is an affront to being fiscally responsible. I think we can be fiscally responsible and protect or staff a
Yeah.
building outright. Constituents deserve that
I
in
was just
East
gonna say they
Portland.
deserve it.
East Portland for
Yeah,
sure, like no question.
yeah.
Like you still relatively close
I know.
in
Yeah.
comparison to East Portland folks. Like,
Yeah, I would say I identify mostly more with District 1 because of that. Just like,
well, that's just who you are.
yeah. Well, and it's also like just where I live. I
Right,
talked a lot with Noah about that. I live on unpaved road. We don't have sidewalks out here.
right.
It just attracts a lot of the same issues,
Yep,
like
I agree.
zombie RVs and all that
Right.
stuff.
You got District 1 issues.
Yeah, I got D1 issues. Um, I've actually seen. I don't think I've seen District 1 ballots, but I was curious. Where did you get placed in the order? You know what I'm talking about? How everyone's.
So it's funny because my wife threw my threw my voters pamphlet away.
Okay.
She is so funny. She's so taking mail and just moving. But on the ballot, I'm like at the bottom. I think I'm
You're
like
near the
third or
bottom.
fourth up. Like,
Okay.
and at first I was like,
Right.
I'm a black man, right? And then and then I'm like, okay, they did it in alphabetical order. And you know what? The people that support me will find me, right?
Yeah.
And I think our voters who are gonna go through the voter pamphlet and look on the internet, they gonna find you, right?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna put in a lot of energy to pick the type of folks that hold their value system. So I'm not worried
And it
about it
could
as
be
most.
worse, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're packed in the middle,
Yeah, that's
that's
bad.
the worst,
We
probably. But
scheme past the middle. We
okay.
can go top to bottom, bottom to top, but
Yeah.
generally we don't start in the middle. So, yeah, listen, this is the thing, man. I believe that what I bring to our city is very unique, and I need East Portland to agree with me. And
Mhm.
if they don't, if they agree that somebody else is a better version for them, then I'm okay with that, right? I won't be mad. I won't be upset. I think my heart will be a little broken, right? But the voters get to pick. And that's all that really matters,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
What does the voters want?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's enough uninformed voters that I'm gonna lose because I'm third to the bottom.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. I think it's one thing people love about you is you're just so authentic.
I
I
ain't
don't
got no
know.
other version
You
of
just
myself,
you
man.
just exude authenticity, I think. But I get a couple topical things I've been asking people about.
Okay.
There's all sorts of hot takes about this, but how do you feel about the Live Nation thing? Do you know what I'm talking
You are terrible at it. You ain't playing today. Music Portland, don't let me go. Still
I've
care about me.
I've heard all sorts of things. I asked Juma about this the other week,
Right,
and
right.
like people have like interesting opinions. I love hearing them.
Right. So first I need to start off by saying that I am not a music guy, right? So I
Sure.
don't want to I think that if you're in the
That's how
music
I feel too. I'm
scene,
like, I'm not a
I'm not a
musician.
musician.
I
I don't
like
have the
listening to
same
it, but
right. I don't have the same vested interest as our small businesses or need to develop and grow as a city.
yeah.
I don't have a invested interest in the sense of like it's the work I do. But what I do think is that we are no longer a baby city. And I think that we want to act like we are. We make big city decisions, but we don't like big city results,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so, the open air drug use is an example of that, right? That's a big city decision.
Mhm.
We got big city results and we didn't equip ourselves for it. So going back to the Live Nation, this is what I would say is that I think we have to be okay with developing bigger venues.
Yeah.
A lot of our community is running to Seattle and running to Eugene and all
Mhm.
these different places. Now, but I want to be really clear. Like there was some concern, and I think there was some legit concern. And I don't knock community for or the music community for those concerns. What's important is can we take that into consideration? What's important is under a new governance, how would that concern impact our decision making? The issue was land use,
Mhm.
right? It was a land use issue. Live Nations, I mean, the music folks' concern seems to be more ethical
Mhm.
than land use. So I think the city made the right decision based on what was on the table,
Yeah.
right? And I think Portland has a history of making value arguments and not legal ones, right? And so I think the city council made the right decision from a legal standpoint.
Mm.
I if I was Music Portland and folks who didn't want the Live
That's the
Nation
group,
venue,
right?
right?
Yeah.
I would have I would have argued safety above everything. That
Mhm.
would have been the
Mhm.
main focus of my argument. And then I would have forced city council to decide whether or not this venue was truly safe. Had they really done the work that they need to make sure community was safe? And are they prepared to put things in place that if not Live Nation, that venue didn't stand up, that we, as leadership, we'll shut it down. And I think that we be afraid to say, hey, if they don't hold their part, we'll pull every permit and shut it down,
Mm.
right? Because we need developers. We need private money
Yeah,
in our
yeah,
city. Don't
yeah.
misread it. So I think we be afraid, and I think that's what Portland we get to these extremities of fear. But we need development. We
Yeah.
money has to come into our city.
That's totally how I feel, and I'm like, I don't know. I know people see them as like a bully company and all this stuff, but I'm like, what you said at the beginning, that's totally what I've been thinking about lately. Is like we have all these moments in Portland where it's like we could take the big city route, the lane of the big city, and a lot of times we just go, no, we don't want to do that.
Right.
But at the same time, that kills off all the business opportunities that could have come from that,
Mhm, mhm.
and employment and all this stuff,
Yeah, we
um,
gotta have work, man. You know.
and it's like I heard the same thing. I think from Juma or somebody else was
Mhm.
telling me like in the music world, it is true. Like we get passed up. People go to Seattle. They'll go
Right.
to these bigger options that we just don't really have. We have
Yeah.
Moda, but
Right.
that's about it as
Yeah,
far as.
and Juma's a music guy, right?
Hmm.
So again, me, I lean on smarter people. So when I went to Juma, like, hey, Cutting, what's this all about? Can you
Yeah.
help me understand it? And he was like, look, I get where they coming from, but there's other folks in the music industry that want these opportunities for these mid-sized
Hmm.
venues
Hmm.
to exist to bring more artists into the city. And so, but I don't give Live Nation no pass. Like if you're not doing right by people, you need to be held accountable.
Hmm.
But that is not city council's decision to
Right.
make,
Right.
right? We have other authorities that's supposed to address those things. I think we made the right decision on a land use issue.
Yeah.
Other issues, I think, is a different fight.
Yeah. It's the thing I was talking about too. Is like because I was gonna also ask you about WNBA and MLB,
Mhm.
and the MLB thing's interesting because that's the one that I'm like. When I talk about these lanes that I was just saying, and we have these forks in the road, I feel like that's one that could, like, we have these opportunities sometimes historically. And it would be such a shame if we got so close to getting an MLB team and then they just go, no, like for whatever reason, we're not going to pursue this.
Mhm.
I just see a pattern of that in the city, and it's like we don't, and maybe it's just the mentality of we don't want to be a big city. We don't want to.
Doesn't matter. We are big. We're listen.
Yeah.
We're going in the route of big cities. We
Hmm.
we we like to tax like a big city.
That's true.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
We want music and food to be a tourist driver like a big city.
Hmm.
We are not Eugene, Oregon, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the days of Portland being able to live there is over. When we get offended, we protest like big cities, right? We behave like a big city.
Hmm.
And the truth of the matter is we just ain't we're not living with those decisions, and we're not preparing for the outcomes of them. You talk about the WNBA, that's huge,
Yeah.
right? Especially with the Kaylin Clark momentum, and you seeing a whole nother shift to honoring these women in sports that
Right.
play at the highest level. But sometimes there's this spark that set the world off about, and now we see that spark, right?
Hmm.
Reese, Clark, we
I
see a
think it.
spark
I
happen
keep saying, yeah. I think they're at the highest viewership they've ever been at right now.
ever,
Yeah.
right? And common to our country, we always talking about race, not production. So I just want to put that, like, her being a white girl has nothing to do with
Right.
her production.
Yeah.
She's a godsend to the WNBA, and I don't care why people. She broke records in college.
Hmm.
Of course, she should bring a new level of viewership because she's exciting as hell.
Yeah.
She's shooting
The
from
game is.
distance.
Yeah.
Steph Curry evolved at 3-point line, and she's the best version of that we've seen out of women.
Hmm.
We should, he filling up arenas. We should get excited, and so that was a big move. But I don't listen. I don't care what anybody says. If we don't become a safe city,
Yeah.
none of that is going. We have opportunities. We be getting the NCAA championships here.
Yeah.
That's
That's
huge.
huge. Yeah.
But what we
It's a
do
lot of
as
money
it's a
and.
lot of
Yeah.
money, tourism. But what we do as a city, we do this last minute cleanup because we want
Right.
to
Right.
look clean,
Yeah.
but we don't live there. We don't live and exist as a safe and clean city. And that is problematic for us. And so, you talking about Major League Baseball, this is one of the whitest cities in the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Major League Baseball is going to do fine.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's,
Yeah.
can we be honest, Andy? Like, this is Portland, Oregon, but like Major League
Yeah.
Baseball is going to do awesome. But do we have the leadership that can go bring the type of capital
Yeah.
and investors that we need that'll buy into that existing in Portland?
Hmm.
And I would argue that public safety will be the first thing people talk about when bringing a baseball stadium. Listen, baseball is America's game. This is wholesome, right? This is
Right.
this is wholesome,
It needs that public safety.
doesn't
Yeah.
it? And
Yeah.
if you take that away, people ain't gonna show up. So we have to. When Renee calls for 1,000 police, this whole hard on crime narrative is like what they love to push on people, but it is a very practical move to move us into the future.
Right.
Because if we don't have it, baseball ain't coming. The minute something happened to one of our WNBA players that we could have avoided by being a conscious city, we lose all of that.
Yeah.
And in fact, if we don't make some changes, look, coming and being here is two different things. Because I always can pull out, right? I can
Yeah.
always walk away from
Yeah.
it. We got to get folks to be here and stay here. And I'll hit you with this: the Blazers can't keep young black talent.
Yeah.
We got to talk about that. That's
Yeah.
a cultural issue,
Right.
right? We got to talk
You're
about
saying living here and all that?
they don't stay,
Yeah.
right? How does Lillard go from I'm never got a whole rap song about not leaving Portland, and then he get up and leave?
Yeah.
There's a cultural issue here, and again, my argument is black folks have to be able to define a culture without middle-aged white women determining what that is. We need to be able to define a culture that when these young athletes come here, they feel love, they feel a part of their culture. The melting pot of culture is what makes this country amazing.
Hmm.
Why wouldn't you be able to come here and find culture and folks that look like you, that laugh like you, that loud and present like you? That's what makes a home for any of us.
Yeah.
Black, white, Hispanic, it don't matter. When you find people you relate to, this is why people have always come to Portland and say, this felt like home. Because we had so much diversity here that no matter who you was when you came to Portland, Oregon, you felt at home.
Yeah.
We have to become that
That's
again.
all. Yeah. I don't know. You just kind of blew my mind with that. Because, yeah, it is like there's just not a lot of diversity in any sense of that word when people come here and they can't identify with,
And they don't stay.
even if it's just race or the way people think or all that stuff. And
Yeah. And that's why I say culture. Now, there's a race aspect of culture, but culture is still necessary.
Right.
And so for me as a black man, there's a specific culture
Yeah.
that I grew up in. And when I see folks who share that culture, it makes me happy.
Yeah.
It makes me feel present. That's family. right? That's why you love your family so much. Even though they get on your nerves, you go, why I be so comfortable around these crazy people?
Yeah.
Because I've been around them crazy people my whole life.
Right.
Right. And
Just
so
yeah.
so culture is necessary and we struggle with it here because other people keep identifying who what other folks' cultures are. And
Yeah.
we just have to stop
I
that.
always call it the monoculture here. It's
Yeah.
just like you got to be this way,
Right.
and if you're not, you're
Right,
not
right.
Portland, and
If you're not, you're a Trumper, right? That's
yes,
how they
or
do you in
whatever
this
it is.
city, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they go to places and they name call in a way that is supposed to shame you.
right,
And I think folks are just tired of that.
yeah. Well, it's funny too because I was gonna say I'm not. I've said this a couple times about the like these are my probably least two favorite sports. I wish we were getting an NFL team, but that's
Oh
probably
my
never
God,
gonna
I would
happen.
love football here. Lord,
Or I don't know. It is cool though. I'm still happy that the WNBA and possibly the MLB.
big.
Yeah. Um. Let's see here. I'm trying to think if I got anything. Did you have any? Did you
Mm.
want to say anything about Measure 118? I've been asking people about that. Do you know what that is?
I don't know what that
That's
is.
like the. I've been telling people. I don't know. Kristen did a whole episode about it. But it's a statewide like sales tax basically. But the
Oh,
idea is then everyone gets a free check no matter how much money you make. You get like a thousand
oh,
dollar check.
so we tax people just to give people money.
Yeah, and it would
Um,
be the first like sales
And I'm
tax
not
award.
touching that.
Okay, all right.
I'm not
That's
touching
fine.
that.
All
I'm
right.
not. I ain't ran up on it. No, they not doing
It's
this to
all
me.
good.
I barely made it out of Willamette Weekly alive. Like, no, I'm not touching no sale tax. People do not want to be talking about sale taxes when they rolls is still messed up. So
Yeah.
let's move on from that one.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about the Lamb Week thing because I was
Uh
gonna
huh.
say, it'll be I guess a while past the story now, but this whole
Mm,
debt thing came out.
right.
Sophie Peel wrote it,
Yeah.
and yeah. Just what do you think about that? I my first reaction was like people have already kind of priced in the fact that you went to prison for 13
Right. Right.
years,
Right. Right.
and I didn't think that this really factors into people's decision making personally, but
Right. No, no, shout out to Sophie Peel. We don't gotta agree about everything, but she has a job to do.
yeah.
I think that when I looked at that article, I think I'm quoted fairly. I don't have an issue. I think some of my big concerns is that I haven't seen people's spouses attacked, regardless of the things they've done. I think the only critical thing I would say is that my wife, who raised 4 children alone,
Hmm.
who lost a mother at 3 years old, who didn't have a present father because of drug addiction, the fact that she had the audacity to fight and to stand, and become the best version of herself, and sometime debt is going to follow that. And for her to look at our country and say, okay, we're a country who love, and we're a country who cares, and we've set up things so where if it becomes overwhelming for you, you have a way out, because people are committing suicide
Hmm.
because of debt. People are murdering because of debt, right? And so for my wife to make the decision to protect her mind, her mental health, I applaud her for that. And I think for me, that was the only thing I was critical about, was that it got it, you can't play you can't play politics in this city the way I think that piece of the article did. I think, some of the most progressive people in this city, candidates, reached out to me, like shout out to them, like reached out to me. I was like, Terrence, that was too far. Like, we don't agree on everything, Terrence,
Hmm.
but certainly your wife and her story, and you and your story, is this ain't the way to address that. And so I'm grateful. But I'll tell you, listen, I don't I've been open and transparent. I lost my 20s to incarceration, right? I
Hmm.
I think that coming home, starting a business after years of becoming a student in business, hitting a point where we came out of our first contract with TriMet, and shout out to TriMet. Talk about giving people a shot in true equity,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Truly being a company that looked in that equity as a legit
It's a
way.
big
Uh,
contract. I mean,
it's a huge
yeah.
contract. I had a big first opportunity for my company. And then when we lost it, we didn't win it in the bidding phase. I had to make hard decisions
Mm.
as a small business. And kind of that learning gap that exists for me is I didn't really understand how these loans, these like I call them predatory, but they're
Yeah.
just high interest loans,
You know,
kick your
you're
butt.
you're right about that too. Like for what I do in my day job, I have to follow what the CFPB does. It's like the National Financial Protection Bureau, but they've been going after predatory lenders
Yeah.
for
Yep.
years, and it is like a huge problem in this country.
Yeah, it's big. It's interesting because they know it. They target mainly minorities,
Yeah, yeah, they do.
because they understand that there's. You know, I'll just hit you with this, Andy. This city often talk about being progressive. And they leverage that generally on black folks and minority stories. And they talk about economics and they talk about the criminal justice system and they talk about social justice. And then the moment that plays out in a black man's life,
Right.
people don't look so progressive anymore. You understand what I'm
I
saying?
totally get what you're
Like
saying. Yeah,
how do these very progressive people come out and say, well, we know the way black folks are targeted for bad economic circumstances, but we're going to try to punish you or
yeah,
negate you because of that same type of targeting,
yeah. It's like
right?
what we were just talking about. We know that there's a lot of predatory businesses doing that, but then at the same time, we'll just say, well, it doesn't matter. Let's
Let's go get them,
add
right?
all this stuff up and
Listen, the first person that reached out to me was Angelita.
oh wow, yeah,
First person. And she said, Terrence, with everything that we know how predatory loans go after minorities, I think that this was a low blow. Now, we don't agree about a lot. She's a very progressive young lady.
yeah, yeah,
But you talk about us agreeing about the fact that we all know through the data that this how it works, and for that to be a thing that's used against me
mm-hmm.
in this so-called very progressive city, I just found that interesting. So for the record, everybody, we lost the contract. I took a loan and hope to sustain my company during a
Yeah.
very rough period of time.
Which I was also gonna say we were talking about further. That is so common
Yeah,
for especially small businesses just to stay afloat.
all we're trying to do is
Like
survive.
small businesses are in razor thin margins a lot of the time. I mean,
So
I don't need to tell you, yeah.
no, no, but that's the point though. That's why I think that article was like such a dud, right? Like, not
Yeah.
again, shout out to Sophie. I think she's a good reporter. I think she does her thing, but it didn't have no real momentum
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, anybody with a small business
They're like, I've
knows
been
this
through
is
this.
part of it,
Yeah.
right? So I get that loan. I keep the company afloat. I hire formerly incarcerated people. I don't want them back in the streets harming our community. I sustain my company for a while. Well, creditors don't have patience, right?
Right.
Creditors don't wait. If you don't get to that next contract, they go after you. So they did what they do. They came after me. There was a lawsuit filed. Out of California, for the record, I want to remind everybody it's interesting. Out of California, and then ultimately it trickles over here because that judgment was theirs. So I never all that was lessons for me.
Yeah.
Every single one. So even people going like, oh, how can he handle $7 billion budget when he's been in debt? It's like, what are y'all talking like who is born with the ability to manage $7 billion? You
Yeah.
learn,
Right.
you do better, you become a student of finances through trial and error. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said that in the article. I said, look, my story doesn't come from privilege. My story come from hard work and lessons
Yeah.
learned.
I mean, your life is, you've been through like what 10 people have gone, like
Right. So
there's a lot
so
in there.
the reason it didn't impact the people that support me, because they already seen my story.
Yeah.
They already bought into the fact that I'm on the other side of some bad decisions, right? I believe in accountability, and that's the same when it comes to this loan. This is why my family has continued to strategically find a path to pay this debt off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going through those processes. But listen, shout out to Sophie again. She said leading candidate. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see you coming after me. But the folks that really support me, they called me. That's my real phone number on the back of my campaign card. They called me, Terrence, is you okay? What happened? And I broke it down. I didn't keep nothing a secret.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. I was going to remind people too, but I personally think, and I'm like, I just love finance. Maybe it's because of what I do for my job too, but I've
Right.
always studied like markets and finance and stuff. And I actually think that helps you understand finances better
It does.
because debt is a common part of especially building businesses. I mean, most startups nowadays are in debt for years before they start making a profit.
And we haven't even hit our 5-year mark yet.
Yeah,
We're not even there yet.
exactly. So you're in that kind of startup phase, and that's just like 90% of businesses are in
Right.
that. And also, I wanted to remind people that on the national level, our country is in like trillions of dollars in debt. So
No,
it's like,
no, I laughed about that because I'm thinking about like a year ago we was talking about how Peabody's 20 million
yeah,
too far. It's
our
like,
bureaus, yeah,
right, I'm sitting here like, y'all want to judge me because I'm a struggling company doing what's best for formerly incarcerated
yeah,
people
yeah,
and taking that high level risk when everybody that was put in office didn't manage that well. Like, we need to try some new
yeah.
folks with some new lived experience that's gonna come in and challenge some of the
And
norms.
that's got to be hard. Like one of the first things I thought of is like it's got to be hard being in prison that long and coming out and just not having any like financial
Literacy.
literacy or understanding or anything. But I
Yeah.
bet with the people you're employing, you're helping them too with
Yeah,
that.
but
Like
and they don't make my mistakes.
yeah,
So the people that I've helped start their own companies, I when we're talking about those type of loans, because they always get reached out to, I show them.
yeah,
I'm like, hey, let me show you the paperwork. This doesn't end well. It feels like you can make those weekly payments because they're weekly payments, but I assure you they're gonna run down on you so fast you don't want this. And so everything I've been through becomes a lesson
yeah,
for the people that I pour into. So I don't, that's why like this whole thing coming up seemed to hurt, like make everybody else more nervous than me. Cause I'm like, that's never been a secret. If
right,
you
right,
hanged around me long enough and you talked about business,
yeah,
I'm going to talk about these type of loans. I'm going to talk about balancing the books. I'm going to talk about making long-term decisions that actually allow you to survive as a small business. Those are lessons. People always had to learn lessons to teach, even to teach you finances in college. Somebody had to understand, right? Somebody had to learn market trends, right?
yeah,
That's why we always say like future outcomes is not based on past what's they say, future outcomes is not based on past
yeah,
results or
yeah,
something like
yeah,
that. Like, yeah, nobody,
yeah,
because some companies take these loans and they knock through them and they have the contracts to sustain them. And so no, I think every lesson is real for me. And this is why, like I said in an article, our mortgage is paid on time every month.
yeah,
Our debt is paid on time every month. That experience forced me to understand the necessity
mhm.
of being on time and not taking on more debt. So you're talking about past debt on Terrence. We're not talking about how me and my wife manages our debt now and how we learn from that lesson.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I don't know. It's to me, it's all you've always struck me as somebody who's future facing, and you're just focused on that, and that's what it sounds like to me. And also, we were talking a little earlier, like the whole idea of shifting the bureaus away is that so counselors don't have to deal with
It's not even a me problem.
bureau budgets. So
No, no, don't skate over that.
yeah,
The article pictured it as if somehow this negated my ability to deal with these big old budgets. I review them and approve them or
yeah,
challenge them.
that's about
I
it,
don't
right? Yeah,
execute
right.
the usage of the funding, and that was the whole point. So even like again, when you think about how we set up articles, that article was set up to challenge whether or not I will have the ability to manage all this money.
Yeah,
I do not manage all this money,
right, right.
but I do know how to look at a budget no matter its size. I do know how to ask for information to figure out what's working or not. And I do know how to challenge bad fiscal actions because, hey, I've been through it, man.
Yeah,
That's how you
and
learn.
in that sense too, you probably have way more experience than a lot of the 100
Most
candidates
of these
that are there,
candidates
you know?
have never had to write a check. I remember at
Yeah,
Future
yeah,
Portland, one
yeah.
of the question was, have you ever had to write a check? So you mean to tell me you think that I'm more of a risk of as a person who actually had to look at a budget at some point in life than a lot of our candidates who've never, and I'm not knocking them.
Yeah.
They've never had to look at a budget. They've never had to think about 10 years down the line because they were getting a check and somebody else was thinking about that. And that's not a knock. They bring different things. But certainly we got to have some folks that actually understand a budget
Yeah.
before you knock
It would
me.
seem like it gives you an advantage
I think
over
so,
other
but
people,
you
yeah.
know, clearly Sophie
And I
challenged
also wanna say
it.
I do think I'm not kidding about this. I think that, like, I've talked to so many candidates on the show. There's, like, over 100 candidates.
hmm
I guarantee you there's other candidates out there who have way worse problems. So I just want to say
Yeah,
that.
but
I
you
think
heard
you were kind of targeted because
no, you heard the headlines.
yeah,
You seen the headlines, leading candidate. Ain't this so interesting? Let me tell you how that made me so happy. Like,
right.
because, you know, 6 months ago, the question was, can you win at three? Can you be the third option behind like Steph Routh and Candace
Wow,
Avalos?
wow.
Can you be
That's
the third
wild to think
option? That's
about
right.
now. Yeah.
Right. That's not how they talk about me now. So I feel really grateful that the level of support I've gotten out of the community now makes me a legit contender at the number one spot, right? Now, East Portland is not devaluing me.
Hmm.
They're esteeming me.
Yeah.
And I am, and it's only because I'm saying what they say. I'm repeating what's important to them. East Portland is not talking about tree canopies. They're talking about sidewalks.
Hmm.
They know tree canopies are important, but they don't have sidewalks.
Yeah.
They're afraid to get shot in public. They're afraid of their small businesses being destroyed because folks who struggling with addiction or just violent and destructive are destroying their small businesses and their property.
Hmm.
So like, yeah, when I tell the truth, when Noah Ernest tell the truth, right, when we're challenging some of these norms, then yeah, we're resonating with East Portland. So I feel really good that folks is coming for me because I haven't told a lie.
Yeah.
And if you got to dig in my past about some business that I occurred, but you're not challenging what I've said out of my mouth as far as who I am in the body of work, I'm fine with that. This is the nature of the beast.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'll say you definitely are one of the most like just open, honest dudes I've talked to. There's some people on here, and I'm not obviously going to name them, but
Right.
I've talked to a lot of people who are like, nah, I'm not going to talk about that. I don't want to talk about this. And
Yeah.
you're just always down to talk about
Yeah,
anything.
give it
So,
up. I
yeah.
mean, listen, talk about a person who will get on here and talk about mental health, right? From me to my wife to my mom. Talk
Hmm.
about drug addiction with my mom struggle historically and my dad and my sister still in addiction,
Yeah.
right? So who's putting that on the table? So yeah, I'm never going to give your mom needles and foil because I wouldn't give it to mine,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? And people ain't having honest dialogue about that. Instead of asking people questions about preventative stuff, you should say, hey, if you should somebody bring, you're a former addict, should somebody come put a pipe and foil in your hand?
Doesn't seem like a good
Come
idea.
on,
Yeah.
man.
It
So why am
doesn't
I gonna
seem
put it in anybody else's hand?
right. Yeah.
And that's why I
That's what's
think
great.
people
You bring that
appreciate me.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and because I'm being honest,
It's just
I'm,
your life.
I'm
Yeah.
not playing politics.
Yeah.
Everybody is still playing keyword wordplay politics. I'm one of the few folks, and I think we see more courage coming out. And I'm grateful for those individuals that actually saying, absolutely not. I was at a forum when they brought up that those kits, and everybody was dancing around. Oh, if you do this, and I said, ever giving anybody a drug kit. What
Yeah.
are y'all talking about? That is death. I'm not exchanging death for death.
Hmm.
You talking about, well, it helped prevent this death. We've seen record number overdoses in our city. People are dying from drug
Yeah.
use.
Yeah. It's one thing. It really,
It's
I try
ridiculous.
to bring it up a lot too because I feel like there's a lot of people who just don't understand addiction, and you definitely, like, all your family members and
Right.
stuff that have dealt with it. It's really important.
That's huge. We got to help people.
Yeah,
We got to get treatments, man.
yeah,
We got to get detox. We got to get treatments. We have to pay staff, right? We have to build capacity. I don't 110 open air drug use would have never became a solution to addiction.
yeah.
It was just the leverage that people use really to combat people going to jail for it. But
Mm.
you notice we decriminalized really fast, but we didn't open up detox centers and rehabs really fast.
Yeah,
That is,
yeah,
think about that. Like, if it's about that person surviving, why wasn't that our focal point immediately? But it was decriminalization. That was the first standard. And
yeah,
that's what we do here. We leverage people's pain to push our own policy. Those people in the record number overdoses,
yeah,
and we talking about whether jail is an option. How many young black men got to die from gun violence before we realize that defunding GVRT was a bad deal?
mm.
We should have defined our expectation from gang tasks. We should have created policies and practices that didn't throw nets out in black communities and harm young black and brown men specifically. That's what we should have did.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have got rid of the one entity that understood the warning signs. I'm about root causes all the time, the warning signs of gun violence. But we did that. So we did it in the name of black communities, and black communities seen the highest level of gun violence and deaths in this city ever.
Yeah.
How did that help the black community? But they say, wow, when I get up here and say, y'all never talk to people who actually experience gun violence. They never talked to folks like
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
They only leveraged our story to get the legislation that they wanted or the policies that they wanted.
Yeah, and you're right. And we're still in this like height of gun violence.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
We were down 20% year over year. In the last week, we've now beat 2023 in gun violence, and we still got a few months.
Yeah.
You see all them shootings
Yeah,
and
I saw one.
deaths?
There was one yesterday, I think.
My
Yeah.
wife's cousin is the guy that was in the newspaper today that died 5 days later.
Wow.
That was my wife's cousin.
Yeah.
So this is why I come with passion, and I'm not compromising about what it takes, because it was my brother a few months ago.
Yeah.
See, this is what I'm saying. When do we say it just didn't work? I talk to progressive all the time, the so-called anti-police. Oh, they're like, well, it's the police's fault. Well, we didn't want them. Oh, well, they didn't mean they shouldn't have stopped policing. We didn't want them over there. You told them not to deal with black folks and gun violence. You got what you wanted. Well, they still show up to the murders.
Yeah.
They still got to show up.
Yeah.
They said it costs $1 million every time somebody's murdered. It costs our city $1 million.
Wow.
It only costs a few $100,000 to create workforce opportunities for at-risk people. See, I'm not playing the same game as they. Andy, we playing two different games.
Yeah.
They talking about an industry that's built on the back of young black boys dying. I'm talking about an industry that can save lives and contribute to community. We are not, policy for me ain't the same as them.
Yeah.
I still hear folks want to argue with me about police. We all agree in police accountability. Why is that the only thing you want to talk about?
Yeah.
We agree that it's necessary and that we should have a healthy pathway to that. Now, can we agree that we have a gun and gang problem in this city? We can't say gangs. Terrence Hayes is saying it.
It was like, I don't know, when 6 or 7 years ago, we can't say that anymore.
Yeah.
Like.
So who was the first candidate that was coming out and boldly saying it again? Me.
Yeah. The crazy thing about the policing is that, like, I hear from people every single week about, I had this happen at my house. I waited 2 hours. The police didn't show up. And it always gets, that's one thing. And then I always hear about, I want community policing. And both of those things, I'm like, you know how to solve that? we need a little bit more police. That'll solve.
This is why, the pivoting progressives bother me so much, because that's that's their new terminology, community policing.
Yeah.
And they never have to describe what that is, because it's a buzzword, because now it's a death sentence. And I said this on Bike Portland. I said, if you look at my more progressive candidates in my district, they were all no more police, less police. And all of a sudden they're like, well, we need to make sure that we have the amount of police that's approved. 3 years ago, you were saying we need no police. If any. That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
They signed the no police money pledge. Yeah. It ain't enough money the police could have gave you. That was about taking us a clear stance about how you feel about officers. You can only give me $350.
Yeah.
So, and then the pledge itself said you can't take more than $250. So it wasn't about that.
Okay.
You see what wordplay do to you?
It's totally a signal, that you're.
That's all it is. It's a virtue signal, right? And so I'm going to this thing and I'm saying, all that is bullshit.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It doesn't work. You want to talk about community policing? Can you describe that for me?
It's a great question to pose.
They never describe it because it's a virtue signal.
It's just it's got a good ring to it.
Yeah,
They just like to,
actually,
yeah,
I'll tell you what I think community policing is, because I actually do this work every
yeah,
day. I
right,
actually know what it would look like, or what it did look like in black communities when we knew who our officers was.
yeah, yeah,
Now, you say community policing. In order to pull police out of community, you have to invest in police. But you don't say we need to give PPB more money. See the hypocrisy,
yeah.
they playing word games because they're playing with people's lives.
It is, yeah. The more
These are
more this goes
lives.
on, yeah, the more
The-
lives are lost.
these are lives. I'm telling you, we're short officers. I'm saying that if you want community policing, you have to pull police out of our communities. So you have to change the narrative about policing that starts at the top and trickles down.
Mm.
Any city council that's not willing to be part of changing the narrative about policing cannot then believe in community policing, because we will never pull police out of community because the narrative is bad.
Mm.
So these young people don't want to be police. So you
Yeah,
cannot get community policing when you keep telling them that they don't need to be police.
yeah. It seems like a great starting point, right? To fix some of this stuff is, yeah,
Because it never was about that.
yeah,
It's about, you have an issue. You held on to this issue. You built a whole platform on this issue. And now you got to find a way to get the voters and not compromise kind of your stand on
right.
that
It's
issue.
just like I was right. I'm still right. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
change
I'm
my,
not going to change it, but I'm going to say community policing. I'm never going to describe that. I'm going to focus on PSR as if PSR can be an alternative form of policing. Okay.
right,
And I'm a black man in Portland. Let me be clear about something. If you give PSR the same training and same ability, they just the police. Like, let's
right.
stop, right? If you want them to answer to low level crime, they're the
That's
police.
a new
Like,
police, yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So, and you're at risk of the same bad behavior that black folks has been complaining about for a long time.
right.
You would just, it don't matter who you give the authority to. It matters how you change and how you train, excuse me, and what they're allowed to do with that authority. That's the concern in the black community.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah,
And it don't matter who you change that out with, because guess what? Firemen can come in, and I love firefighters, but they can come in and mistreat black people if their heart is in the wrong place,
yeah.
right?
Anybody,
That
yeah,
anybody could.
yeah.
It don't, if you have a level of authority, you can mistreat people
Easily, yeah,
easily,
yeah,
right? And so we need to deal with that more than we need to make it about the bodies. We don't have enough bodies. East Portland is very clear they don't get a response. So everybody's going, oh, we need to get up to the 8 something. Well, I sat down with PPB authority, and we have enough cadets that we're getting pretty close. Chief Day keeps saying, look, we're living at doing about 80 people a year. Well, we're gonna hit that 8 something. But understand this, that if we don't have something in the pocket, when people start retiring again,
yeah. It falls off.
come
Yeah.
on, when people need breaks and vacations, and
Hmm.
then we don't have enough officers. So yes, PPB's coming back. And they're gonna say, hey, we hit the 880, but I tell you guys, we need another 50. So what are those candidates? What's community policing gonna look like for those candidates when that time comes? So I'm gonna double down on it, but I'm also gonna be the first one at the table if a police cover up his camera and murder somebody,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
demand that job, to demand accountability. I'm gonna be the first person at the DA's office saying, Vasquez, you know I support you, you know I appreciate you, but what this officer did has to be clean accountability, and we don't get to play the police DA game about this because community is tired.
yeah. I think that's what one of your strengths is that, and obviously the interesting part of your story is that you're both for accountability, obviously, and then you're, you know, pro
So,
police. You
yeah, I'm
want,
supportive of our
yeah,
officers
yeah,
without question.
yeah,
Because again, I've been shot
yeah,
and I've shot people.
exactly,
I
yeah,
went to jail for shooting
yeah,
someone. So that's what I'm saying. My story is exactly the balance and public safety that we need in leadership. And
yeah,
this is why community pollution. Because what other politician or wannabe politician will say, look, I've shot somebody, I've caused harm.
yeah. So you can tap into that. You're the only one probably that can tap into
The
that type of
only
stuff.
one
Yeah,
who can also go into a room full of at-risk youth and say, get your shit together.
yeah,
And here's the resources, because I know that you need help. and I'm the only one that actually do it. I hear people talking about being gun violence reduction advocates, being these, I used to do this with gangs and that with gangs. I'm used to.
Well, yeah, and
Used
I would say
to.
I'm sure there's a lot of gun violence people too who have like never even shot a gun, and
Never been
just having that
around it.
experience, yeah, it's just so
So
important.
why are we always saying we need lived experience in these spaces when all the people that are biggest voices and run the show don't have lived experience?
Yeah. All right, this is gonna maybe be a goofy question. I meant to ask you this on your first episode.
Uh-huh.
I'm getting into my goofy questions here, but
Let's go.
how long do you think I would last in prison?
No, you would last. You'll do fine.
Okay.
You want to know why? Because you're gonna ask the right questions, right?
Okay.
And you're gonna
I can do my
you
podcast.
no you would. People be like, man, I want to talk. The thing about lasting in prison, in my opinion, is anybody can last. You can last as an aggressor, you can last as a victim, or you can last as a neutral party, right? But I think you're gonna be in one of those
You have to
boats,
determine that,
right?
yeah.
But I think people who are okay with being themselves actually do the best,
Okay. All
right?
right.
Because they just say, "Hey, man, I don't do all that," but I respect what you're choosing to do.
Right.
People, you can't go in prison and think you about to go in there and shake up the whole jail for how you feel about something. You are in their world. There's some people never going home,
Yeah.
right? There's some people
That's it.
that's never going home, and there's a group of young men waiting right now because they've killed somebody that may never go home, that's sitting in county jail.
Yeah.
So I think you'll do good. I think you'll mind your business. I think you'll be a good white dude who just mind a business, right? Don't get involved in no gang
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Hey man, I just, don't play poker. Stay
Okay.
away from any gambling tables. Eat your lunch. Do whatever spiritual and mental uplifting you need to do for yourself to get through that time, and you'll do great.
All right. I was
That's
just
what I
curious.
do.
Hopefully, and I'm not saying I'm going, but
No, I hope not, brother. We listen. People always talking about getting rid of the prisons. I got an answer for that. Let's stop committing crimes.
there you go. There you
You
go.
want to deal with prisons? Just encourage community not to
Yeah,
break the
don't do
law.
it. Yeah. I probably asked you this at one of the events recently, but do you have a favorite Taco Bell item? Did I ask you that before? I
Man,
can't remember.
no, I don't know if you asked me that. I don't eat no Taco Bell, man.
Okay.
Listen. When I first came home, those are the things I rushed
You're just getting
to
all this
Taco.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because in prison you would rarely. We had these feeds we did sometime, and you would get these Taco Bells or KFC or somebody, and they would charge you probably like 10 times what they paid for
Really?
it,
Yeah.
but you paid it because you're in
She's like, I
prison.
want this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a luxury. But that Taco Bell don't do it. Look, I got an
Okay.
iron stomach, brother.
Yeah.
And Taco Bell, it know how to
That's
break down the
getting through
iron. Yeah,
that.
so I'll let Taco Bell go. But if I had to,
Yeah. What would you get?
um, what chalupa? Oh
Ooh.
God, I love chalupas.
I
Why
like
did
the
you just do
chalupas.
this to me? I beat Taco Bell's addiction. Now you done brought up the cheesy.
There's one right over here on
No,
Johnson Creek.
you're a horrific person. The chalupa,
Do you
yes.
have a favorite taco place in Portland?
No, so I go to like I go. Okay. Here's a confession.
All right. All
Okay,
right.
they're gonna get me. I eat a lot of Mexican food,
Okay.
like
Like
it,
several times a week, or
probably 3 or 4 times a week.
okay,
Like in
it's
my
good. I love
and let me
Mexican.
tell you, I have a wife who's a legit chef, like this woman. Because like
Okay,
if you follow her on Facebook, like she cooks, like she
she's posting that
loves it
stuff. Yeah.
all day and all
Yeah.
night. But there is something about when cultures of people touch the food
Yeah.
that they culture created. In Hispanic culture, to me, like the way they do food,
It's so
is
good.
so amazing. And the second thing I eat a lot of is pho.
Oh yeah, you like the soup?
Oh my God.
That's technically soup, right?
It's
Yeah.
technically a soup, a beef soup, but pho, I can die on that hill.
Okay.
Last
I'm trying
meal,
to remember the last time I had it. Is it you
you
pick
tripping.
it up? You got to pick it up like that, or
Nah,
you just with a spoon?
you just a spoon or chopsticks
Okay.
or a fork. But pho, like when me and my wife want to get some love on each other time, and we gonna go out to eat. Well, she likes steaks too, so
Mm,
she'll
mm.
get me with a good steak. But pho is our go-to thing. There's a place, Pho 503
Oh,
downtown
okay.
Portland.
What was that? I was just was that the what you were getting with Jesse Burke? Was that pho? I saw you had to.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
me. No, 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 no. We did. We was with the Chinese community,
Oh right, yeah,
and
yeah.
they brought out a whole fish, and
Okay.
there was eyeballs, and everybody was
Really?
like, "Yeah, I mean, listen, bro, I'm with all the iron stomach stuff. I told you that. Like
And you ate
outside
the
of,
eyeballs.
yeah, I ate the
Okay,
eyeball
okay,
because they told me I wasn't. And then freaking Vasquez did it. I'm not about to be one up by the future DA. I'm Terrence
you
Hayes.
got to eat the
Yeah, I
eyes.
gotta eat that
Yeah,
eyeball.
yeah.
So Jesse freaking recorded. Everybody else get rid of those type of recordings, but Jesse Burke, of course, of all smart and strong women on the planet, she decided to keep
She's
it.
got a video
And
or something.
and yeah, and
Okay,
then in like esteeming me and promoting me online,
okay.
she posted the video, and
I
she's
didn't
like,
even notice the eye was a part of that. I
yeah,
have to. I gotta
that's
watch that
that's
again.
why that's why it's so hilarious
Yeah.
because we're eating the uneatables, right? And
Right.
Jesse's like, she sent me a thing. She's like, I hope you don't mind what I posted. I'm talking about the human in a person, and here we are laughing and joking, all different lifestyles
Yeah,
and
yeah.
upbringings, and I'm eating an eyeball. And it was something else, but it was Vasquez I was beefing with about eating stuff, if I remember right.
That is so funny. Have you ever heard of the? I don't think I could ever do this, but I think it's in. I'm probably getting this wrong. Thailand or Vietnam, but they have like eggs that have like a bird inside it. You
Yeah,
eat that?
yeah, no,
I don't know if I could do that,
I'm
but
not gonna do that.
okay. Do you have a favorite? You might laugh at that. Do you have a favorite fair ride or like Disneyland ride?
You know what we did, me and the wife. Which one is in Florida? Is that Disneyland or Disney
Disney
World?
World, yeah.
Okay, so we went to Disney World, which just is an testament to my kids' life being so much different than mine growing up. But we went to Disney World. My wife's like, "We're going," and I'm like, "It's expensive," and she's like, "You only live once." Like that's how she deals with me. But we went to Disney World and we did the Harry Potter
Oh,
exhibit,
okay,
and
yeah.
that ride was so interactive. I'm definitely like a Dragon Ball Z, Harry Potter geek
Okay,
type of dude,
yeah.
like anime, all
Really?
that,
Yeah.
all
I used to
that.
watch Dragon Ball Z when I used to go to karate as a
Let's
kid.
never say used to when speaking about Dragon Ball Z because you're gonna
It
lose
is
a friend
good.
today. You're gonna lose a friend.
Yeah, I
We do
mean,
that now, right? No, but I joke, but I am definitely like your anime geeky type of
that's
dude,
great. Yeah.
comic book geeky type of dude.
Okay.
There ain't a Marvel or DC movie that come out that I'm not
Really?
watching.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what I do, man. I listen, my if you ain't enjoying life, brother, if there's not some things that just move your little corny
There's got
bone,
to be
like
something.
gotta
Yeah.
be some
Yeah.
this is not the end all of life. Like we are people, we are family, we are human, we're amazing.
Yeah.
And that's where we should be living every day.
I like that. I haven't been to the Harry Potter thing. I'll have to check
Yeah,
that
you
out.
need
Yeah.
to. That if they still got it, I don't know. But it was super interactive and these little things was coming out of nowhere. It was
Yeah. I've
crazy.
heard about it. You get the wands and the butterbeer and all that
And
stuff.
my daughters went, and these are my adult daughters. They went crazy with the butterbeer and all that. Of course, I paid for it, but whatever.
Okay, this is the last one. This sounds really weird. I've been asking everybody this. I've actually been getting pretty good answers, but I'm asking people their nut rankings.
Hmm.
'Cause I
Like
go pistachio.
pistachios.
Yeah, I go pistachio, peanut, cashew. Those are my top three.
Ooh, that's good. So I'm gonna go cashews at top.
Okay.
There's something about that texture. I love
And I think
cashews.
that Kristen, for whatever reason, says that's not a nut. I don't know what that means,
You
but it's got to
know, she's
be.
smarter than
Yeah.
me, so
Yeah.
I ain't getting into a debate with Chris. Okay, that's not what my argument's gonna start about nuts today. We're gonna assume us common people see it as a
Yeah,
nut
it
and not
is.
some other fancy name.
What else is it? Come on. Yeah.
Cashews. I'll probably go almonds,
Okay.
especially like honey roasted or
Mm,
salted. I love honey roasted anything. And then I don't like fighting with walnuts,
mm.
but I love them.
Really?
It's I don't know. It's that
You like cracking
hollowy.
open?
It's the process, but it's that they kind of got like to me this hollowy bite in about
It
themselves.
is
They're
kind of,
not like
yeah.
as firm as a
It is
peanut.
kind of
So
hollow, yeah.
yeah, it's kind of so them
Yeah.
is my thing. Peanut is the regular peanut is at the bottom. You know,
Like,
God bless how the peanut has contributed to society. I do not want to knock the peanut,
we got
but
peanut butter, yeah.
right, but it is not the top of my of my
I
nuts.
think, yeah, like logically, that seems like that would be the worst because it's like the like grass of like
Of
yeah or
grasses,
something. I
right?
don't know. I don't know. It's like the low
Right. It's
thing
not.
of
It's every day. It's everywhere, and it seems to be produced at the highest
yeah,
levels.
it's
There's no
everywhere.
high quality to your peanut.
Yeah.
You just eat it.
All right, man. That's all I got. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, listen. Everybody, pay attention.
Pay attention.
I love this city. I love its people. I love the support that I got, even from people that I don't perfectly align with politically. It says a lot about who we are as a city. And I think that we should be excited about this coming election. I want to encourage people to get out there and vote. We want to make sure that we become a fair and balanced city council and that we have leadership that's ready to take us to the next place. I said multiple times, like shout out to people even when I didn't agree with an article. I'm gonna be a transparent candidate. I was walking the other day and this young Asian girl, she looked me dead in my face and she said, "Are you gonna be transparent?" And I said, "Well, I tell no lies," right? I thought I was saying something really fancy, and she looked me right back in my face. She said, "Terrence, are you going to be transparent?" I don't challenge that whether you'll lie or not, but are you going to be transparent when we ask, will you be transparent about what we're asking? And I said, I have a commitment to talk about where money going, talk about how we using it, and be very transparent about problems that I see happening within city government so that the community knows. And she said, okay, you got my vote. And so shout out to everybody in District 1.
Shout out to that girl.
Yes, definitely shout out to her. But shout out to District 1 that just wants to be heard.
Yeah.
Want to be honored. So that's all I gotta say, man. I always appreciate being here with you.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me to tell a piece of my story with the debt thing. I
Absolutely,
really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And thank you for your support. You've been one of the main people.
I was gonna say
that just stand with me even through all my stuff.
Yeah, if I was in your district, you'd be my #1 ranked for sure.
Terrence Hayes, number 1 in District 1, and then let's talk about Noah and Loretta. Like, don't miss like if you want rational out of District 1, them is your folks, right? Noah and Loretta for sure.
That's my dream team, like I said.
Yeah.
That's see all of them in. Yeah. But yeah, thanks so much again for coming.
Man, you my dude, man.